Hey there, John here. I have not put up a webinar for some time. I guess like everybody else, between COVID and the election, it's been a little bit crazy, sometimes depressing, I have to admit. But hey, it's time to get back to real. And real is that this fall are excellent opportunities for getting some of your salon sales back, particularly Black Friday week or Pink Wednesday week, whichever way you want to call it. And on my YouTube channel, you'll see that I have the broadcast I made last year, which people were very successful with in looking at their Black Friday week and the way to handle it. So I won't cover that right now, but you can look at it and look along with all the other YouTube videos that I have on there. What I want to talk about today, which is really, really important, not only for this fall, but to get ready for peak season coming up here. One of the weaknesses that I think we have as an industry is salon selling. Having people behind the counter that know how to sell, or at least have the basics of selling. And so what I'm going to cover today is essentials of salon selling. Now, before I get into that, I want to really define what it is that we as tanning salons, what business we're really in. You got to know what business you're in before you're selling it. And I'm going to take a little side road here and just give you my first slide here to talk about what we're going to talk about first. And that is, what business are we really in? And so I think that most people would say, yes, we're in the tanning business. Of course we are. And are we in the indulgence business? Yes, we are in the indulgence business. Are we in the business for offering escape? I would say, yes, we are offering escape. You all know how many times you have to wake somebody up that's in a tanning booth because they've fallen asleep. And especially this COVID times and everything that's been going on, escape is great. But is it really what we sell? So I'll talk about that in just a second. So the concept of selling, and I expect, by the way, for you to take this webinar and share it with your salespeople, your managers sharing it with their salespeople, because this is what they need. They really need some basics on selling. And that's what we're going to cover here today. But the question is, for some people is, well, do I really sell anything? Am I in the business of selling? And the answer is that everybody sells. You, me, everyone, we're selling every day. My wife and I have been together for 30 years, and it's constantly a negotiation, it seems like, but it's really selling. She's selling me on her ideas, me on my ideas, whatever. Every night I have to sell her, or she has to sell me where we're going to eat dinner or what we're going to eat at home. But everybody does. And I think what happens is a lot of, particularly the young salespeople that come to work for you, maybe they don't think of themselves as salesmen, by that definition. Excuse me, love my Snapple here. But the truth is, everybody sells. If you think about, if you're a salesperson on this call that works in a salon, you had to sell yourself to the salon manager or owner to get the job. They, in turn, had to sell you on why this is a great place to work. So I think a lot of times we think of selling, we think of used car salesmen, trying to quick close somebody on something maybe they really don't want or whatever. But the truth of it is, everybody sells. Unless you're the Unabomber and you're laying under a rock somewhere, everybody is selling every day their points of view. And I think one of the things that we need to say is, before we get going on the essentials, is what do we really, really sell? And yes, tanning, indulgence, escape, but one of the great things that we have as an industry that we sell is people walk out of our salons feeling better about themselves. They've done something to make themselves look better. They've taken the initiative to do it. And really, we need right now, particularly I think this year, what we need that tanning salons can supply more than anything is to help us with our self-esteem. We are in a terrible way in self-esteem in this country. Let me show you a little bit about what the National Association for Self-Esteem. I guess our country would be maybe one of the few countries that would have these kinds of associations. I'm glad they do. But look at some of the stats here. 7 in 10 women believe they are not good enough or do not measure up in some way, including their looks and their relationships. 7 and 10. Does that get different when women get older? You might think so, but the National Association for Self-Esteem wasn't just talking to 18 to 24-year-olds. It was talking to women of all ages. And believe me, when you get to be older, sometimes you spend a lot of time worrying about your looks. I'm talking to you right now where I can see myself on my camera. I'm looking awful old. So that's not really great for my self-esteem, but maybe helping you and to help your employees sell better, that's good for my self-esteem. Look, at 98% of girls, women feel there's immense pressure from external sources. Well, look at, one of the worst critics that women have are other women. And I think most women would agree with me that yes, they want to look nice for men, whatever, but we're we're fairly easy to please. But in terms of makeup and hair and the clothing, a lot of times they're doing it for the approval of other women. Self-esteem is, if it was higher, then would they really care? I guess we'd always care how we look, But and then the last thing, 92% of women would like to change something about the way they look, their body weight ranking the highest. So do we have an issue of low self-esteem in this country? We certainly do. And if you're going to sell self-esteem, what do you and your employees need to know? So let's talk about the first thing you need to know. And let's look at this. The most important selling tool in the fragrance world is the mister, the sample bottle at the fragrance counter. I mean, you could have somebody from L'Oreal does it that's not even there at Macy's or one of the big department stores, not even behind the counter. And you as women, I trust that there'll be a lot of people watching this webinar are females, and you go in there and if something smells good, the bottle is pretty and the price is in your price range, whatever, maybe you don't need anybody telling you anything about the virtues of that particular fragrance versus another. But that's not really the way that it is in the tanning business. In the tanning business, the number one important tool in the tanning business is you. The owner manager that works behind the counter, the manager that works behind the counter, or if you have multiple stores, it's your people that work behind the counter. You are undoubtedly the number one most important selling tool. I don't care what kind of money. You can buy all these new Ergolines, PCT, KBLs. You can load your salon with gorgeous tanning equipment, great locations, whatever, and you'll do well. But if you really want to maximize, even if you have a marginal location, it's that person behind the counter. I'm showing the image here of a lady on this slide, and there's a lot of good reasons why I like that image. She looks pretty, she looks very professional, she looks like she's ready to wait on you. But the most important, that's the point I want to make, for you owners that maybe don't stop and think about this at times, your equipment and location is great, but the people you hire, that makes all the difference in the world. And I can show you some facts and figures about this that will floor you. Okay, now what's the number two most important selling tool in the tanning salon industry? And that is your software. Your software is critical. There's some good software out there. There's some really good software, and there's some software out there. I'm not going to get into bombing anybody. I get paid nothing from any of the vendors in this industry, whether it's a distributor or hardware manufacturer, a lamp manufacturer, even somebody that has a forum. Although I do like Lori's tanning salon owners forum. I like hers. I think it's really good. I think she does a great job. But I don't get paid anything from Lori. I don't get paid anything from anybody for endorsing them, including software. So the most basic software that you can get, and what it should do is that software should tell you a history of when that customer became a customer with you. That's really important to know for a lot of reasons. It's what level of tanning, if they're a current customer, what level of tanning are they at? If they're at the top level of tanning, maybe your approach is for some nicer lotions or whatever, or maybe for longer term packages that are cheaper on an EFT plan. That's a whole different discussion. And then the duration of that tanning level. How long have they been on it? If they've been on an entry level tan, some of these really old tan beds that look like bulbs on a surfboard, whatever. If they've been on it for a long time, chances are they're not getting the tan that they want. And I'll get to that a little bit more here too. And then in history of the upgrades or remaining tanning. Now, why is a history of upgrades? The history of upgrades is important because, frankly, the vast majority of upgrades don't get used, at least don't get used in a timely fashion. People a lot of times will hold on to sessions and upgrades like it's in their checkbook. And they'll say, well, I've got this reunion coming up. I've got this wedding or this event coming up. I'm going to hold on to my sessions and my upgrades, and I'm going to tan like a beast, before that, so I can look like Rihanna or whatever. Rihanna, excuse me. So I want to really look good, but that doesn't help your salon. So selling some upgrades are great, but you're going to find that what's better is to sell people into upgraded levels. That's where you make your money. And so it's a history of the upgrades that they have used. And a lot of times people are just not using them. And this is where the software is super important, because if someone's not using their upgrades, again, that most important tool you have, that salesperson, if they're really on their game, they're going to look at that and say, I see, Mrs. Jensen, that you have 3 upgrades. Would you like to get out of that entry-level tanning and try the level 2, or however you name your levels? I'm not suggesting you say level 1, 2, but would you like to try this? That's super important. Okay, so also what's on there is the history of the products they bought. Wow, after 546 different tanning salon companies, and particularly over the last 2-3 years, I'm just amazed sometimes at how low the LPA or lotion average is. It floors me, because I look at some of these big sophisticated chains, or I look at sophisticated single salons, and I see they're doing well in some ways, but their lotion sales are super low. And really, what that most important tool that you've got, owners, managers, that person working behind the counter, if they're looking at the history, they can see when the last time that someone bought a lotion. If they bought a package, and let's say that they're on a 90-day EFT package or whatever, and they bought a lotion to begin with, and they haven't bought one since then, why? Let's talk a little bit too about lotion selling basics. The best start for selling lotions is that your salespeople, and you, the salesperson, and I'm saying this to the owners, managers, the people that you hire to be your salespeople, they've got to be believers in tanning. They've got to be bronzed, for one thing. If you have to convince a salesperson to be tanned, then I don't get it. Then why are they in the tanning business? They shouldn't be, because remember that the salesperson behind the counter is the #1 important selling tool. They are that moisturizer bottle that we're talking about, that atomizer, if you want to call it, that spritzer that women buy, fragrances off of. So if they don't want to be tanned, I would with any salon, I would make it mandatory. If they don't want a UV tan, if employees don't want a UV tan, then allow them free, no charge, to spray tan. When they come to work, they should have some color to them. As part of also what I do with my clients is there's a dress code and there's an appearance code. An appearance code means hair, makeup, and of course, having a bronze. And then #2, when it comes to lotion selling, you have to do your research. I'm saying this to salespeople. Pick out the features that fit your passions. If you try to sell lotions that are other people's passions and not yours, it may not work so good. Something that you think that really works well on you, that's what you want to talk about, is what fits your passions. I would say that also, by the way, too, and when it comes to just selling in general, we can teach salespeople how to sell, but we really should let them have their own patter, if you will. And I'm going to get to patter in just a minute here too. Patter means, the way that they approach the customer. And so, okay, so you look over the customer's lotions or products buying history, and you be ready for suggestions. If you're not going to be ready with suggestions, don't Don't even talk about it then, I guess. Always ask about the tanner's lotion usage to ensure that the tanner has good results, and to protect them from their cost, quote unquote, protect them from their cost of possible acrylic damage. And this crosses that line about how do we take care of people that come in with a lotion they bought from Walmart or they bought it offline, whatever. You have to protect your acrylics, but you have to protect your business too. And you've got to ask people to see their lotion, and you're telling them you don't want to be intrusive, but you have to make sure that the lotion that they have is authorized for your equipment, because you don't want them to pay a heavy duty price for damaging an acrylic. Sounds like it's a little bit Machiavellian maybe, but it's great for your salon, and it's great for them too, because if you let tanners buy something offline, it may be garbage, it may be something that's not real. All right, next, if necessary, explain the basics, how good lotions prepare their skin for longer lasting results. If you've got somebody that's tanned with you for a while and they've been regularly buying lotions, whatever, you probably don't have to worry about that, because these people know that they need to have a good lotion to bring out the best. And then last, consider the intended duration of their tanning plans. If someone's got a 90-day deal that they've bought on EFT, and they're buying a packet, press them a little bit of what their plans are, because a packet of lotion is not going to get them very far. But that's why, again, there's history of what the customer is doing in not only their tanning, whether it's UV or spray, but also in their product buying. Okay, also, you want to keep the sale, again, these are lotion selling basics. You want to keep the sale simple. I have viewed hundreds of videos of salons of people selling or trying to sell. I've been there in person and watched them. And the next thing, if you don't have this down, someone's either not selling a lotion at all. And by the way, when you have a low dollars per tan lotion sales, like your people are averaging $1, and I've seen it worse than that. I've seen it down to 60 and 70 cents. No one in that case is selling anything. It might be that the customer bought something, but they didn't buy it because the salesperson, was suggesting something that would be better for their tan. So anyway, but if you keep it simple, so like for bronzers, I would say use the 3 bronzer approach: a modest price, a medium price, and an expensive price one. Now, be ready. I would start from the bottom. I don't know why people in this industry want to start at the top. Hey, here's a bronzer for you. It's $140. I can't afford that. Okay. Really, do the Best Buy model. Good, better, best. Here's this modest lotion, and it's $40 or $45, whatever. And I think that it's a good lotion, but I think this medium priced one at $65 or $70 would be better for you and your skin type. And now here's one, and of course, if they're tanning on the top equipment, they probably have money. And if they have money, well, then, maybe start a little higher. Here's one, this bottle of black is great. It's $125, whatever. And if they balk at that, and you say, well, listen, I want you to know this one at $75, this is the one that I use. Recommendations are huge. Should you sell the most expensive? Again, what level of tanning equipment are they using? That may be an indication of their budget. If their lotion container is low, encourage an exchange at a discount price. Owners, let your salespeople do that. If somebody's got a bottle of lotion and it looks like it's only about a fourth left, tell them, I'll tell you what, I'll exchange. If you want that same bottle of lotion, you give me that bottle, I'll sell you this new one at 30 or 40% off or whatever. And that's a great ploy. It puts a new bottle of lotion, it gets you an extra sale. And we've proven it's my 30th year of being in this insanity, we've proven that if somebody buys a lotion from you, whether it's on discount or not, if they buy a lotion from you, chances are they're staying with you. It would be rather unusual for a person to buy a new bottle of lotion from you and tan at Planet Fitness. It doesn't make a lot of sense. Doesn't make sense to tan at Planet Fitness in the first place, but Little editorial note there. Now, sales consultants need to emotionally own their favorites for recommendation. Use, I think this is the best seller, I think this is the most popular, or this is my favorite. People, when they come in to spend their money and invest their time at a tanning salon, they're looking for recommendations. They want you to guide them. So, okay, professionalism. Consider Clinique's salespeople. I just picked out Clinique. It could be L'Oreal or whatever, the way they look, dress, and present themselves. A true professional would send an email to each customer. I would. If I was selling at a tanning salon and somebody bought a new bottle of lotion for me, I don't care if it was a cheap bottle of lotion. You've got their email address. I would personally send them an email. Thank you, Julie, for coming in today. I really appreciate that. Please ask for me the next time that you come in, blah, blah, blah. That's what a professional would do. And I want you to look at this note I've got in here for you to Google Joe Girard. If you want to talk about professional. Now, this person, this gentleman, was not in the tanning salon industry. He sold cars, which what does that have to do with tanning? It has to do with selling and selling professionalism. This guy is in the Guinness Book of Records. He was in, I think, 3 years in a row for selling the most automobiles in anyone's history. And he didn't sell them by fleets. He sold them one by one. That's because he took care of his customers and he would send them these follow-up notes I'm talking about. And people flocked. 2, 3 generations would come back to him. I believe he's probably in his 80s now. But when he was younger, he was a salesman for, I believe it was Ford, in one of the Ford dealerships up in Detroit. Anyway, Google Joe Girard if you want to see a story about how professionalism works in selling. And also salon professionalism includes lotions as a key subject in each salon meeting. So, okay, I know with this COVID thing, you're probably really scant on having meetings. We're not going to be in COVID the rest of our lives. My God, I hope not. I don't think so. But when you have meetings with your employees, wear masks, but on the agenda, there should be a number of things that should be on the agenda. Not just what people are doing wrong among your employees, but talk about what they're doing right, okay? That will encourage people to come to your meetings. So lotions, I would have your best-selling lotion person there talk about what it is that she does to sell more bottles of lotions. And you're going to see that in their numbers. Even the crappiest software can eventually get you their numbers. All right, I want to go over 2 more things because this webinar that you're hearing right now is part 1 of the Selling Essentials webinars that I'm going to do. Part 2 I'm going to be putting on my website in the vault. But this is coming to the end of part 1. And the reason I'm doing it as part 1 and part 2 is because I don't want these webinars to be too long because people have got things to do. I wanted to get you some basic information. Part 2 has got a lot more, but that's coming up. Okay, so let's talk about EFT Basics review and why is this part of selling? Well, it is because if you want your salespeople or salespeople want to be good, what they should be doing when they're talking about UV and even spray too, by the way, they should be talking about what the cost per tan is. Now, if you've not set up your selling sheet to show the cost per tan, I'll show you that in just a minute, so hold on to me, because you want them to see your UV tanning as a wow price. If you're showing that your entry level is I'm just throwing out prices here, by the way. Let's say it's $50 for a 30-day unlimited, and just throwing out a price. If they're seeing that it's $50, they're seeing $50. But if they're seeing a price per tan, and that goes down, of course, dramatically, that's what people have to think about. What is this costing me? If you look at the grocery stores, and they were the ones that kind of led the way on this. If you go up and you go to a price tag on, you're going to buy, we eat health nut bread by Brownberry, and if you look at what the pricing they have on there, they'll have that you can buy so many for X amount of dollars, and most of the time those price tags will have what it is per ounce or per loaf or per whatever, and that's that's what you're showing when you're showing on your cost per tan. Okay, so for example, at the start of a new tanning season, and I know that we're not at the start, but thank God we're coming up to it soon. Don't forget about November and don't forget about December. But January will start what we hope 2021 will be a peak season to be remembered in a good way, not what we went through this year in 2020. But at the beginning of a new peak season, 75 to 80% of tanners are walking through the door, are seasonal tanners, and that's when the price can be kicked around by other tanning providers. You will see Suntan City, Planet Fitness, they'll be shopping price out there and kicking it around in early January. They'll want people to see how cheap it is. So that's why you have to remember that you've got a lot of people coming in that might be tanners for you from last year. They may have been tanners with you for 10 years, whatever. But most people walking through the door are, new tanners for this year and new prospects. Okay, most tanners, 85 to 90%, are not EFT members. That's to differentiate from the above. Above, I'm saying 75 to 80%. These are proven facts, are seasonal tanners, but 85 to 90% are not EFT members. So there's many, many prospects for you salespeople that are listening to this webinar, and you get a bonus for selling a EFT package. You can make one heck of a lot of money. I mean, I've seen people in this business make outrageously amounts of money. Their owners would look at it and say, maybe I'm paying too much, and then they realize their revenues went sky high. So, okay, I'll pay that much because it's being sold. Okay, so give you an example here. Let's say at an entry-level EFT price of $30 a month becomes, using an average of 12 tans per month, Mrs. Jensen, you can tan for as little as $2.50 a tan session in this level of tanning beds, and that's on an EFT. So then what you're doing is you're saying, but also it's with each step up, it's very inexpensive on a per tan basis. So let's show you what I'm talking about. Oh, Mrs. Jensen, the next level beds are only an additional 83 cents per tan. I'm telling you, gang, that sucks them in every time. They really need to hear that. What am I spending? Okay, let's see if I can get, okay. So let me show you a sample pricing sheet. I have done, I'm going to say easily 300, it actually might be more than that, because I've had 546 tanning salon companies I've dealt with over the years. So maybe I did a pricing sheet for each one of them. I know it's at least 300-400. Some of them I dealt with just on their HR matters, and we didn't talk about their pricing, but the vast majority of them, we redo their pricing because their pricing needs help. So let me show you a pricing sheet here. I've blanked out. This is a real tanning salon. I won't tell you, actually they have two salons. I won't tell you where it is because this is their private information. But if you look at this, you notice how what we've got, and I'll move my cursor here. So we just labeled the tan levels: hot, soup, bronze, turbo, premier. We just these were names that we were using for that salon. Again, I'm not going to tell you who it is, but so a single session is $10. Okay, but Mrs. Jensen, your customer, if you buy a 10 session package, it's only $5 a session. But if you buy a 30-day unlimited and you tan 12 times a month, which is a good industry average when people are actively tanning 3 times a week, it drops to $3.33. By the way, if you move into one of our memberships, it's only $30 a month. And at 12 sessions, an average of 12 sessions, it drops to $2.50. You see, now, so let me just show you this. I'm not, by the way, if anybody from the FTC is listening to this webinar, I'm not price fixing. I'm not suggesting prices that you run. What you see there on the screen is all over the board. So you get to markets like Los Angeles or Houston or Boston or whatever, where you have a lot more socioeconomic, higher socioeconomic households, and the competition is higher and you're higher or whatever. That's different from Clear Lake, Iowa, Okay, so it just depends on the market that you're in, and we've done so many of these pricing, and you know, and then when you get to Canada, the prices in Canada are always more expensive than what they are down here. Their cost of living is higher, and anyway, so but to take a look here, what's going on when you see this sheet here, you're seeing that with each level, the pricing does go up, but when you look at it from a vertical point of view, it always gets cheaper with longer commitments from the customer. In this case, let's say we'll go to, and I'll tell you too, by the way, that when you're looking at the average number of levels, it used to be years ago in this business, we had salons with 6 and 7 levels because they thought this was a good way to keep bumping people up to spend more. It confuses customers. We've gotten away from that. Most salons you're using now maybe 4 levels at the most, where we have a premier level that's like in this case, if you see this, a premier level that's got spray tan plus all the beds. So you really got 4 levels of UV tanning plus 1 level that includes all the beds plus spray. But when you do this, it shows the customer that it gets cheaper each time with each additional commitment that they've made. Commitment, agreement, never contract. Now, notice this line here where we're talking about EFT bonus. And by the way, I also wanted to point out something to you too. If you look at what the collections are, if you're selling somebody, let's go to say this super bed, all hot and super beds, and we come down here. Let's say that you're selling a 3-month EFT. You're collecting $120 here. Plus you should be collecting a bottle of lotion that you sold. And so let's say that your collections on that one customer and you're selling, and by the way, our average in 2019, average bottle of lotion for our clients was almost $59. So if you're selling this and you're getting 3 months at 120, you're getting another $59, it's 179. The average client, new client that comes to us, their PCA, our per customer average over the year, is probably about $100, 110. So 179, you're way ahead. Now, I wanted to point this out because when you're looking at this and you're thinking about what to pay your salespeople, oh, here's paying $5 on this. Wow, $15 for a turbo. I'm going to pay somebody $15 for an EFT bonus. But look at what you're bringing in. 6-month turbo. You're charging, again, if you had this turbo level, whatever, you're collecting $360 there, 6 months at $60. And if someone's tanning with you for 6 months, they got to be buying, you name it. Is it 3 bottles of lotion? If they're active, 4 bottles of lotion, whatever. So you're way over $500. Hey, if it were me and I had a business and I had a salesperson that made me $500, I'd pay him $15 every day. So I wanted to go over those EFT bonuses because, and EFT basics, because this is what I do with, I would say easy 90% of the new clients that come to us. And we have a lot of people coming in now because, okay, COVID is COVID. You know, I can still be open. I can still make money. I've got to get ready for a Black Friday week. I've got to get ready for the first 2 weeks of December, 12 days of Christmas promotion that we usually run. We also run a promotion between Christmas and New Year's, which is on probably spray tanning. And then, of course, we get into January, which is your market share month. You've got to get out there in January, gang, and make sure that people know who you are. Because remember what I told you, that at that point, most people don't have a tanning package with you, and you don't want to lose them to those people, somebody else. All right, last slide, and this is what part 2 of the salon selling essentials will be. I'm going to go through the selling from entry to exit, the 5 stages to salon selling success: the welcome, the evaluation, the tour, customer guidance, and finally the close. And these are all 5 that don't take that long, but they're 5 that you want your people, and you as salespeople, if you're watching this, you want to have this stuff down so it flows quickly and you're not even thinking about it. It's a second nature. There's salons that have fantastic numbers, great PC per customer averages, Lotion averages, PSA averages, great average EFT draws. I mean, you can't believe the difference in the EFT draws from one salon to another sometimes. And it's because they're not doing their pricing right. Well, anyway, this is what I'm going to talk about in part 2. So part 2 will be on my website, johnrfarr.com, and it should be on there within the next few days. This one you're going to see on YouTube. And I appreciate you watching, and I hope that you'll share this with your employees. And let's get ready to have a good rest of the fourth quarter and a great peak season 2021 and get COVID and all of this craziness in 2020 behind us. Bless you all. We'll talk to you soon. Bye-bye.